could attractiveness not be important or valuable in some cultures? Today we're going to break down two aspects, relational mobility and residential mobility. We'll look at what these are and how they interact with cultures before moving on to look at friends and enemies. Relational mobility is how easily can we move between relationships. This has implications for the basis of relationships. It affects how we form and view relationships, and this can be high or low, and parallels approximately with independence and interdependence. Independent cultures have high relational mobility. People typically have much more freedom in deciding with whom they will have relationships. The social environment presents many opportunities for people to create new ties. They have more flexibility in deciding whether or not to associate with someone in their in-group. Interdependent context has low relational mobility. People have less freedom in deciding who they have relationships with. The social environment does not provide many opportunities to create new relationships. Significant relationships come from various in-groups, and such in-groups are not chosen, they exist by default. Those with high relational ability typically have more friends and more emphasis is placed on attractiveness. Low relational ability are typically more cautious with friends and have more obligations associated with friendships. In low relational mobility contexts, attractiveness plays less of a role because friendships are more certain and are concrete. There is no marketplace to pick and choose friends. Residential mobility. This is the actual ability to be mobile. Research by Oishi et al. In 2002. This was looking at residential change and the resulting psychological consequences. They found that individuals with high residential mobility had more conditional loyalty to their colleagues. They have more Facebook friends on campus. They view their personality traits to be a more central part of their identity than their group memberships, and they prefer large national chain stores which are the same wherever you go. Those with high residential mobility have more conditional loyalty to their college, and they are more likely to view personality as more central to their identity. Those with low residential mobility have more unconditional loyalty to local sports teams and more preference for local stores. There are two mechanisms of attraction. The mere exposure effect. This is a culturally universal mechanism whereby the more we are exposed to a stimulus, the more we are attracted to it. If we keep being exposed to something, it becomes easier to process this, and this is pleasant. And the similarity attraction effect. This is a non-universal mechanism whereby people are attracted to others if they share many similarities. This is not universal, however, as there is evidence of cultural variability, which is particularly strong in cultures with high relational ability. For example, research in 2009 used a sample of Japanese and Canadian participants and had them fill out a questionnaire, giving an indication of their personality. They were then asked to rate how much they liked the profile of a stranger. However, the experimenter manipulated this and showed them a profile of someone who is either similar or different to them. They found that the similarity attraction effect only worked for Canadians, who tended to like individuals who were more similar to themselves. Therefore, it was concluded that the similarity attraction effect is not universal and is only observed in certain cultures. What are the benefits of attractiveness? Within a high relational mobility context, there are lots of opportunities for people to seek new interactions. Therefore, it is beneficial to attract potential new relationship partners. However, in low relational mobility contexts, there is a much more stable relationship network, and characteristics that attract people are relatively less useful. But how does this apply to friends and enemies? Within high relational mobility contexts, people choose who will be in-group members. They can opt to avoid people who can be enemies, and therefore enemies come from out-groups. Within low relational mobility contexts, people aren't likely to be able to choose their in-groups or in-group members. Therefore, enemies are likely to emerge from within their in-group. Research has found that 26% of Americans report they have few or no enemies, whereas 73% of individuals from Ghana said they did have enemies. And this shows the difference between cultures in friends and enemies. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed learning about where attractiveness is useful and where it isn't useful in some cultures, as well as looking at friendship and enemies across cultures.